most angles is actually unreasonable. That's why many people, including the US, have warned about this. Why would America send 500 troops to war on land? What can be done to fight Iran, whose terrain? The topography itself is a natural fortress, very difficult for ground troop to penetrate us. The United States, in this case, really wants the war to end because the situation is already difficult for them. They are just looking for a scenario that can make them stop fighting without losing face. The United States is withdrawing from the Middle East. So its military bases are closed and the United States no longer has troops in the Middle East.
In the past month, the conflict in the Middle East has become increasingly heated and spread across national borders. Tensions between Israel and armed groups in the region have also intensified. Meanwhile, the rivalry between the United States and Iran has not shown any signs of abating. In the midst of this increasingly uncertain situation, Indonesia has to face sad news. 3 Indonesian National Armed Forces and soldiers participating in the UN peacekeeping mission, or UNIFIL, were killed in an attack in South Lebanon, a region that has once again become a flashpoint for conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. To discuss the conflict between Iran, Israel, and the United States, and the impact on Indonesia following the deaths of peacekeepers, we will discuss this with Middle East savior Dina Sulaeman. Good afternoon, Ms. Dina.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Agang.
Okay, Ms. Dina, as an introduction, how do you view the incident of the deaths of TNI personnel in Lebanon? Currently, yan sa siniwala maye, except what is kahaf tamara marito conflicto.
Well, firstly, peacekeeping operation does not provide the assigned troops with the opportunity to cash out attacks. So its mandate is only to maintain stability, to be in the middle, to prevent the parties from attacking each other, and then also to demonstrate the presence of international forces, the presence of the UN in the region. Now, this is what becomes risky when we send peacekeeping troops to a region with the keeping Korea, Wadiviach, Ziria, Zekta, Hotopusiach, Israel has a track record of violating various international laws. Regarding UNIFIL itself, Israel has repeatedly attacked UNIFIL. In fact, back in 1996, they committed a massacre at the UNIFIL headquarters, which was then a shelter for civilians. More than 100 people were killed by Israel. It was clearly a UN headquarters, right? And at that time, 4 FI soldiers were injured. And from 2023 until today, the UNIFIL office and UNIFIL vehicles in Lebanon have also been attacked repeatedly by Israel. And unfortunately, we are truly saddened that this time, Indonesian soldiers were the victims. 3 were killed and others were injured. And I think we need to re-evaluate our residences there. Is there any point when our mandate is only to maintain peace without being able to do anything to prevent Israel's crimes? Israel is truly an aggressor and has committed extraordinary crimes against humanity, against the Lebanese people. More than 1 million Lebanese have been forced to flee. Thousands of them were killed by Israel. Thousands of people in South Lebanon were killed by Israel. Peacekeepers there couldn't do anything, but instead became victims. This means we need to reevaluate. We really need to not send our troops there when we can't do anything, because what Israel is facing is an Israel like that. Its behavior putting our soldiers at great risk like this.
Okay, as many countries have said, this means that the recent acts can be said to be a serious violation of the UN mandate. That's right, Dina.
Yes. there are many international conventions that state that non-combatants cannot be attacked, that UN peacekeepers cannot be attacked. What does that mean? It means Israel is violating international law. But so far, as I said, Israel has carried out the attacks on UNIFIL in Lebanon many times. But it has never been punished, even when it clearly carried out the massacre I mentioned earlier in Cana, Lebanon mass murder. There was no punishment for Israel. This time, I also doubt whether Israel can be punished for killing and injuring our soldiers there.
Okay. It's okay. It's Ramakrekor, and this violation is indeed widely known to the public. Ms. Nina and Alea. Even regarding the latest facts, Israel stated that the location of the peacekeeping force attack was in an active war zone, making the attack legitimate. Then, regarding your suggestion to evaluate this some time ago, the House of Representatives, DPR, stated that it proposed withdrawing the Indonesian National Armed Forces, TNI, from Lebanon. But if you look at the data from those sent there, Indonesia is also one of the largest contributors, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think this withdrawal proposal is ideal?
Yes, that's what must be done. Yes, first of all, to protect our soldiers. Because, again, UNIFIL's mandate does not allow for attacks. So what should we do when facing Israeli soldiers who are so brutal and so indiscriminately bombarding South Lebanon, where our soldiers are located? Well, that means they must be withdrawn to protect our soldiers, unless our soldiers are sent for peace and enforcement purposes. The difference between peacekeeping and peace enforcement. In peace enforcement, we are mandated to fight Israel so that Israel can no longer commit crimes against the Palestinians and the Lebanese. Secondly, we withdrew our troops there, which is also a strong diplomatic message that we protest to the UN, which apparently cannot protect our troops there. We sent those troops under a UN mandate. So what has the UN been doing to protect the peacekeepers? They haven't done anything. They've only criticized, condemned, and then also sent a message to Israel and the United States that we no longer want to be what do you call it? The victimized party. We were willing to join the BOP. We promised to send troops to Gaza, but it turns out that it wasn't respected at all. Instead, we were made a target for attacks by Israel. Even though Israel claims this is collateral damage, Israel always claims, and the United States also claims, this is a very precise, very sophisticated military. How come they didn't know that there was a Marsas UNIFIL there? The Marsas UNIFIL is clear, and its position is always reported to the parties. Yes, it was reported to Hezbollah and to Israel. Everywhere there's a UNIFIL base and UNIFIL vehicles are lost. The logo is very visible from above. So kaya marabigay sa mga kasama asylum to
Okay, with the incident of the deaths of 3 TNI soldiers, do you think it will Indonesia has plans to send troops to Gaza, considering that in Lebanon, the Lebanese border alone has already claimed victims in peacekeeping missions? And the president has also announced that Indonesia is ready to send peacekeeping troops to Gaza under the auspices of the Board of Peace. How influential do you think it will be in influencing these future plans?
Yes. When the peacekeeping mission we sent to Lebanon was mandated by the UN, it couldn't even provide protection. This means that the UN, as the mandate giver, couldn't even provide protection, even though it's in a stronger position than the BOP. Especially the BOP, which was clearly formed by Trump, cheered by Trump, and its rules were drafted by Trump. He and Trump have veto power there, and Trump himself is clearly a supporter of Israel. What can we expect from sending troops to Gaza? especially since we stated from the start that we weren't involved in military operations. So what are we doing in Gaza? Yes, unless we really want to fight to help the people of Gaza gain independence, that's another story. But from the start, the TNI deployment to Gaza was to help with the humanitarian efforts. How can there be humanitarian efforts in Gaza when 50% of Gaza is still occupied by Israel and Israel is still attacking Palestinian both with fighter jets and snipers still shooting Palestinians. So what can the TNI do when the aggressors have not been punished already are still well, that means there's no protection. Later, there will be attacks, then they'll claim it was accidental. Then they'll claim it was collateral damage. That means we already know there's a big risk. But if there's still sent, it means we're ignoring this risk, and it means we don't care, right, about the safety of our TNI. If they continue, they're going to be sent, right? It means this really has to be canceled. No, we can't plan to send the TNI to Gaza anymore. If the situation remains like this, if Israel is still allowed to do whatever it wants, as we see now,
Okay, so it's very logical and reasonable for the public to urge the government to cancel the plan to send their Miss Dina, right?
yes, of course, this is very logical, and that's what must be done.
Okay. Moving on from the conflict on the border, we are currently still facing a broader conflict in the Middle East involving Israel, the United States, and also Iran. So when you look at the current conflict, do you see any signs that it's starting to escalate? Because groups like Houthi are starting to openly declare their support for Iran. Hezbollah in Lebanon has also carried out several attacks on Israel. Plus, American troops have reportedly been deployed to the Middle East. From Udi's perspective, what does this look like?
Yes, first, if we look at what's happening, it's a package deal. The United States and Israel's attack on Iran is part of the struggle for Palestinian independence. Iran wasn't attacked because of nuclear weapons. There's absolutely no evidence that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. In fact, Iran was negotiating with Trump and the United States government regarding nuclear weapons in Geneva when the United States attacked Iran on February 28th. The nuclear reason is just a fabrication. The accusation that Iran has a nuclear bomb is also a baseless accusation. The real reason is that Iran is threatening Israel. Yes. What form does the threat take? First, Iran has missiles and missiles and missiles capable of reaching Israel. And second, Berian has been providing weapons, funding it as well as been provided in Lebanon and technology as well as yes, the assistance of Allah is in the form of technology. There's no evidence that Iran is actually sending weapons. But from a technological perspective, it seems that Yemen's Ansarullah has missiles whose technology comes from Iran. So, these three parties, Hezbollah, Yemen's Ansarullah, and then also the Palestinian fighters are fighting Israel, right? So because Iran is behind them, Israel feels it is in their best interest to overthrow the Iranian government, to destroy it so that no one can help the fighters from various countries who are fighting Ator, Srara, Tarzare, or Sarazare, or Sarar, Israel. Then we see how Iran responds. Iran responds by crippling U.S. military bases in the area, in the Gulf region. Now the question is, what are these Gulf countries doing? What is their goal? This is creating military bases around Iran and the answer is to protect Israel. So Salah Perhitungan Emila lakala dian simmenjala ala ahale dezala laka. If hade saga biraka lanya la simensaga, they are in Salah Milans Barat me alata human tale sayed barenetri saga salati. So many. But now we see ما في شيء United States crippled military. Iranian Iran missiles missiles have entered Israel. Palestinian fighters can continue their struggle, and when Israel collapses, there will be peace. Is better peace in the Middle East.
Okay. Then regarding the deployment of 3,500 Marines to the Middle East, does this indicate that a ground Uri Shupudane closer Budinda? Consider coupled with Iran's statement that it is also prepared if a ground war breaks out.
A ground war from various angles is not, it doesn't make sense actually. That's why America has also warned about this. What's wrong with America sending a ground war? What can 3,500 troops do to fight Iran, whose the contour of the land, the topography itself is a natural fortress that very difficult for ground troops to penetrate it. Then in terms of numbers, 3,500, then have to go up against 1 million American troops, Iranian troops, Iranian, not to mention the volunteers who are also ready to join the war if there really is a ground war. Not to mention volunteers from neighboring countries. There are already many in Iraq who have registered to defend Iran. This means that if it is really done, it is a complete miscalculation. But why does this narrative keep being conveyed? Oh, Iran will, the United States will send troops, because this is actually just to buy time. The United States, in this case, really wants the war to end because the situation is difficult for them. They are just looking for a scenario that can make them stop fighting without losing face. And if we look at history, it is not strange that the United States is the one who finally withdraws oars. We see how the Vietnam War, the United States withdrew from the war in Okinawa, the United States withdrew, the Afghanistan War, the United States withdrew, the Iraq War from 2003 to 2011, the United States withdrew the United States. So it is not impossible that the United States will withdraw now. This means withdrawing because it is indeed impossible for them to continue. Oh yes, I remember. Again in March 24 or 2025, the US withdrew after 51 days of wanting to attack Yemen. It turned out that Yemen resisted and finally withdrawing its warships from the Red Sea V. This means that it's not impossible that the US will withdraw or stop the war, but they are still looking for a scenario that will make them less embarrassing because they stopped the war because they lost.
Okay, speaking of the potential for a land war, Ms. Dinda, this is linked to the United States' desire to control Iran's oil. Recently, President Donald Trump has also openly considered taking control of Iran's oil and has answered this in front of the media. Dumping. What is your view?
Yes, this is again a matter of propaganda. This means that the United States has no other way to save face other than with continuous propaganda, right? Declaring an attack, then suddenly announcing a postponement of the attack, then suddenly announcing negotiations. Now we're talking about wanting to control Iran's oil and so on. Yes, indeed, those narratives continue to be conveyed to show the public that America still has power. America still has Iran's track record. Meanwhile, Attacks on Iran continue. The United States and Israel continue to boom civilian targets in Iran. Schools, hospitals, and office buildings are still being bombed, hoping that the Iranian people will then lose their courage or shrink and then declare surrender. But this doesn't happen. In fact, instead of retreating or being afraid, they actually filled the squares at Iran every night and continue to urge the Iranian government to continue their resistance against the United States and Israel.
Then the Americans have also repeatedly submitted peace proposals, but currently there is no progress. In fact, Iran has said it doesn't want to negotiate. If you look at it like this, what if the conflict is like this? Is the a possibility of a point where it could.
Iran has stated that it doesn't want a ceasefire. Meanwhile, the United States has said we have 15 points for a ceasefire, we have 15 points for negotiations. Iran has said it doesn't want to have a ceasefire. Because a ceasefire means the war will stop for a while and then the United States and Israel will attack again at any time. So what Iran wants is what are they? A complete cessation of hostilities. Iran will no longer be attacked by the United States or Israel now or in the future. Ultimately, this means there must be a security guarantee that the United States and Israel will no longer attack. So what is the security guarantee that I mentioned earlier? Namely, the United States will withdraw from the Middle East. So, is military bases will be closed and that's something like and right now, the New York Times has also reported that 13 U.S. military bases in the region are no longer functioning. This means that this is a reasonable demand and the process is visible. The possibility of achieving it is apparent because 13 are no longer functioning. Finally, how can the U.S. continue to persist in the Middle East? Indeed, the option will come up. So the meeting point is like that. When there is one party that is arlimatu, that is truly strong, there is another party that is squeezed economically. The US does have a strong military, sophisticated weapons, but they are expensive. Well, this is something the US cannot afford. Plus, the restrictions in the Strait of Hormuz are detrimental to America's partners, its allies, and that also causes losses for America. In conditions that are unequal like this, the one that can force past the concession points is the strong party is Iran. What does Iran want? America wants to leave the region. That's the point.
Okay. Speaking of the issue you mentioned earlier, the U.S. has asked us for assistance from other countries to help secure the Hormuz from Iran and Iran. But in reality, many have refused, including the U.K. And most recently, Spain also stated that it would not grant air access to Washington's fighter jets to launch attacks on Iran. What can be read from these allied countries' refusals? Can they be interpreted as actually being pro-Iran? Or are they simply choosing to play it safe? This isn't a NATO war like that. How do you read it?
Ultimately, these countries are rational actors, Ale. They think rationally, considering what's most beneficial for them. Well, these countries are powerful, wealthy countries, so they don't simply submit to the United States. Especially if the risks are so great, if they get involved in this war, there's a high probability of death. For example, Iran's missiles or drones are well known. It's better for them to take a bilateral approach with Iran. That's more feasible. Iran itself now also stated this, we are not closing the Strait of Hormuz, but we only allow ships that do not support the United States and Israel to pass. Clear, right? What does that mean? Well, then the countries take a bilateral approach like ban this Malaysia, Thailand, right? We directly talk to Iran. We do not support, we do not participate. We do not support the United States, do not support Israel, do not help anything in the attack on Iran. In the end, they are allowed to pass. This is what I think, what is it called? A more reasonable solution that these net countries have taken. If they are actually concerned about oil, right? Para masilis kaya this beast, if they have an interest, they're imkatu sa their ships. Being able to pass through the Strait of Hormuz and then they would get on. There is no need to bother helping the United States fight Iran.
Okay, finally, Ms. Dina, you predict how long this conflict will last. It's been over a month, right? Saying the United States continue to spend a large budget to fight Iran, continue to face rejection from allies, and also pressured by the opening and closing of the Horus prayer. Do you predict when this conflict will end?
In terms of time, I can't estimate how long it will last. But based on America's statements so far, they've been talking about 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Now it's the third or fifth week. Right. Yes, maybe that's a sign when America says the war will last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks. It's a sign of their strength or their limits. That means maybe another 3 weeks. Meanwhile, if Iran continues to attack, no matter how long the United States continues, they will continue to fight. This means that Iran seems to have the confidence to fight for a long time. They have a long life, and this war will be won by those who have that long life. Those who have large amounts of ammunition have greater endurance than not those who have much more sophisticated weapons. Because it turns out that sophisticated weapons are very expensive, so they are not economical when used in long-term warfare.
Okay, let's all hope that this conflict will subside soon. That's what Ms. Dina said. And because this also relates to the fate of all the people of the world, because with this war oil trading, the Strait of Hormuz has also been disrupted, and now many countries are panicking about fuel. Hopefully, this is our shared hope for the conflict in the Middle East. And regarding the deaths of these 3 soldiers, we, the Tribunus editorial team, also express our deepest condolences. And hopefully this will serve as a note or evaluation for the government, as Ms. Dina said earlier, really needed there, and is a withdrawal necessary, Adi. We'll wait to see how the government responds. Thank you, Ms. Dina, for your presentation today. Stay healthy, Ms. Dina.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Agang.
Okay, and for Tripolis, don't forget to continue watching Triple News and focus only on the Triple News YouTube channel. I, Agulak Sono, represent my colleagues on duty. I'm taking my leave. Thank you, and see you later.